So we're going to be covering 16 tips and tricks to level up crazy fast using Helltides, which is the absolute fastest way to level up in Diablo 4 right now. As we go through these 16 tips, if you even get a couple good ideas that are going to help improve your gameplay, then you've definitely won. The very first thing on this is probably something that we're aware of. I just want to make sure that we cover entirely. And that is making sure that you are properly boosted on XP in any way that you can. Early in the game, it can be hard to keep all the elixirs and incense and everything going, but those are things you're going to want. So from the get-go, as often as you can, have elixirs running. Later in the end game, when you have lots of materials to build incense, have those going as well. That little boost helps. And the last thing is going to be the smoldering ashes that you get from completing the battle pass. You want to use those in that first slot that is usually XP. Fill those points as fast as you can. That's going to make a huge difference to your leveling. Now, this season, they added something special that is going to make it even crazier to level up, and that is the Profane Mine Cage. So the Mine Cages, actually, when you use them, they are going to immediately jump your level, or the level of the monsters in Helltides, by 10. So that means that you are getting that maximum XP by having the differential between your level and theirs. Now, in early game, you don't see a ton of these. You just want to collect them as you do, and get ready to use them mainly in World Tier 3 and 4, for major advantages. Also be careful because that 10 levels higher can be very dramatic when you first are stepping into World Tier 3 or 4, or your build is just kind of out of sync. So when your build is tight and you're just crushing everything, no worries. Just run this as often as you can. You're going to get a ton more experience for doing the same things. So a quick note on mine cages, the guaranteed place to get mine cages is going to be when you fight any Hellborns, which will be triggered by a bunch of stuff, and we'll talk about that as we go. The main one being that threat meter getting up to a certain level will eventually target a Hellborn that is coming to kill you and take its revenge. So where are we going to be spending most of our time when we finally get into Helltides? And that is going to be targeting the accursed ritual and summoning the maiden. So that's where the three little pillars sit, and you load in. And as soon as that goes off, even if you're loading all three of them, it starts to put alert for everybody around. So there's a high chance, especially when you're playing at prime time throughout the day, evenings, weekends, you're going to see a lot of people rush in, and it helps to just take down the maiden faster and faster. Obviously, you're targeted on more runs. You're going to get a ton of cinders. You're going to get the best XP in Helltides. The loot is fantastic. In early game, it's already available to you. So just from the very beginning, you start running that, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. The maiden was dropping the uniques. That's where I got most of my uniques in early game and even end game at this point. Now, sometimes you come and the maiden is just not there, or they'll kick you. They'll actually, right after you finish a maiden run, it'll kick you to a different server, and there's nobody playing the maiden. So you had this great thing going, a bunch of people around, and then suddenly you're by yourself. Now, the quickest way to kind of get out of this, I noticed, and it's not something I'm going to run 20 times, but I'll definitely try a few times to see if I can get it to spark. Otherwise, I'm going to move on, and we'll definitely cover things I do when I'm not running the maiden. So if you just teleport out, just, hit your teleport button, go to that main town, and right back in, you'll come into a different server instance, and that could have a bunch of players even currently fighting the maiden. So I might do that a few times just to make sure, if I just come in and it's barren and no one is running it, then I can just check that a couple times. Now, another way to basically speed up the amount of time that you're in the maiden fight and not worry about this if you portal out and then come back and she's gone. I've had things where I just killed her, I hit the last hit, but the gear didn't appear, and I absolutely jumped into one of the little portals, one of the, I don't know, cellars. I jumped into a cellar, and by the time it came out, all the gear had just gone because it didn't show it before I went in. I was so mad, but we'd gone through that whole fight and didn't get it. But just be aware of, if you want to make sure that never happens, if you have a teammate running with you, and even if you just invite someone that has been running the maiden with you a bunch while you're there, then you're kind of anchored to that server, which is really nice. And if you do this right, or you have a friend that you can do it with, one person can go run back to town to drop off your gear and do all the stuff that you want to do, or go get different chests in Helltides, and you still can go back, and you just portal to the town and then hit their portal back to them, and you return right back to the maiden fight. It is a great way to kind of jump in, do things really quick, and then be back in it and not miss out on the next round. Because the rounds can take some time, especially early on, where people aren't just destroying the maiden and cutting down their life bar like mad. She does have 4 stops, so there is going to be places every time she loses a bar, she does something and you can't actually attack her anymore. So just be aware of that. So there is going to be a decent amount of time by the time the monsters show up, she finally appears, and you take her down. So doing little things to basically make sure that you can come back to that battle in the middle and still do some of the side stuff that you need to do can make it a lot more enjoyable and make sure that you're getting all the benefits out of Helltides. Now, another cool thing that they added this season that can give you a major advantage in the maidens, or when running the maiden, is to make sure that you actually contribute. So they have those 3 pillars. If you can hit one, it's, you can't hit all 3, but I always like to do one and then wait and see if anybody else wants to join, because anybody that actually contributes to those 3 pillars gets better prizes at the end when she finally is killed. So just, and as often as you can, kind of be load into one of those at least. What I'll do for this is generally when just after I kill her or we just killed her, I'll run over to the pillars and load up at least one. If I want to load up the other 2 because no one else is doing it, fine, as long as I have the material to do it. Now, as far as contribution in early game, this is a little harder. You usually don't have as many of the materials, and it's a little harder to get. So just note that if you can't, that's fine. The gear is pretty solid, even if you didn't contribute to the loading her up. But it's nice to load up, help the other players also do it for less materials. It's overall a good contribution to the game and the people that are helping you take her down. So here's yet another thing that taking down Hellborn is going to do. It gives you the material, the Baneful Hearts, that allow you to contribute to the pillars. It's only 1 for each pillar. It's pretty affordable, but make sure that you are targeting the Hellborn as often as possible and getting the resources. We also mentioned we're also getting those mine cages above. So just a great thing to do as soon as you can. I know sometimes it's really tough if your build's not right there yet. The Hellborn can be really, really rough. Look at using even elixirs and potions to make sure, or elixirs to make sure that you're strong enough to do it. But I highly recommend that if you can, start taking them down on regular. You're going to need those materials. Another thing that you can do during the battles, the maiden is going to load up Hellborn. She does this like fire attack where she like meteors down and suddenly these elites show up. You're going to want to kill those. If you kill her when those are still around, then those just disappear. So at the very end of the kill, so what I do is just to maximize, because those can also drop legendaries. They give decent experience. It's good to just kind of clear those and then go back after the maiden. And that'll help you get a ton of experience, not just for yourself, but everybody else that's around. So this season has something that's even cooler, and they have actually added special elixirs that are just for the for Helltides, and they are just for this season. You can buy them if you want using obols, but they seem to drop a lot. Early game, a little rough again. By the time you're in World Tier 3 and 4, you'll see these a decent amount. The one we want to focus on is going to be the Holy Bolt Elixir. And what that does is whenever a monster dies, it shoots out Holy Bolts in all directions. It is a great clearing mechanic. Now, this helps both if you're taking down the maiden and just clearing anywhere in Helltides on your own. So just thinking about this, if you're trying to clear super fast, then this is a great thing to add. It does also give 6% experience, but it does take the place of an elixir. So if you're running another elixir and you run this one, you're going to have problems. The Mine Cage, on the other hand, can run when you're running any other elixir and incense. So it runs completely on its own. So just know that that's not going to take one of your slots. So you can still get the experience bonus from the elixirs and still be running your Mine Cage. Okay, so this brings me to something that has been going off in the comments, and some people feel very strongly about this, and that is Cinder holding. I'm actually going to recommend, and I'm going to give exactly when and why I recommend against Cinder holding in many places. In early game, you know, all the chests are going to be 100. They're all mystery chests, and it is worthwhile for your gearing and your constant like progression to just open a chest, load up the best items you get really quick, and then continue on in Helltides. You're going to be clearing Helltides faster. You're going to be able to take down the maiden faster if you want. You'll be able to handle the Hellborns as they show up. All great things to be doing in Helltides, especially early. So you could potentially hold these and take whatever risk. I like the advantage of having that, just being able to constantly grow my gear. I think that does make the Helltide experience more enjoyable, and even my early play more fun than if I was just like waiting. And if that's your preference is to just like focus on the maiden and then save up your cinders and go, I totally understand. Play the way you want. I just think for some people that might actually not be the most advantageous or enjoyable. In endgame, this becomes a little bit more serious, especially when you're just entering World Tier 3 and 4. If you are doing the hold cinder strategy and you're targeting the maiden has a chance and is one-shotting a lot of people. And so depending on where your build's out, how strong you are, can you take a blast from her, you are putting yourself at a risk of losing half of your cinders to hold on to them to the very end. And it's generally easy. The maiden is usually going off all the time. It's easy to take a run over, open a chest, and then return back and continue what you were doing. Again, it's just, I think that is a much better way. You could even in like load some of the gear like we were in early game. You don't need to as much. I do like to like stop in end game and think about each of my pieces, make sure I'm not destroying my build because I needed that aspect that I just switched out. So there is going to be like a lot you can do, and you're getting a ton of cinders by doing the maiden. Like 2 runs of the maiden, I think you can usually open a mystery chest. And so it's like every 2 runs, you could go grab those first 2 big chests. So if you're getting the living steel chest, you're getting the mystery chest, I would actually focus on grabbing those 2 in the bottom area. And then after you've done that, you can jump to the other side of the Helltides and you can go get the 2 chests there by also running the maiden. So every region in the Helltides, whichever area you take, you are going to have a chance to have, there's a spot for the maiden as well. And you have each of those chests for every Helltide run. So from the top of the hour to 50 minutes in, when that Helltide's running, they are going to have the 2 chests in the bottom, 2 chests in the top, and you can get all 4 easily in endgame if you're just targeting the maiden. You get so many cinders. I think it's more advantageous than holding on and holding on and holding on, and then trying to go grab all 4. Now, obviously, be warned that you do have other things going on, like the very next thing, watch your threat meter, because the threat meter is going to keep filling up. And if you're not paying attention, it starts to offload and just dump monsters around you. It gets really rough to run from one place or any place to another as that threat meter gets very high. So it's better if that's about to happen, just kind of clear a bunch of monsters and then actually write it down, do that battle with the Hellborn, and then your threat meter will be back at 0. But what it does is, so the threat meter fills, and when it starts coming down, it kind of chunks down, and it loads a bunch of monsters that are right around you, then it chunks down, and then it'll be unloaded, and you'll be at the lowest threat level again. That is probably the easiest time to run to grab a bunch of chests. Don't worry about stopping and fighting all the packs. You don't really need to. You can just run, get the chests that you want, and run back to the maiden or whatever you were doing in Helltides. The next thing that was quite a pleasant surprise, because in the past, I felt that almost useless, was all those things that are kind of on the edge while you're fighting all the monsters, the different herbs and the stones. And yeah, you had materials, but we were getting materials so many other places that it really didn't matter. And there wasn't a lot to do. It almost just slowed you down in Helltides. Unless you saw the glowing red, then that was important. Then you could go grab it and you knew that at least you're going to get a decent amount of cinders. The changes they've made is it looks like they drop more. It's more often that they drop. There seems to be more of them. And they've loaded where there's more likely chance of an ambush when you go. So if you can go up to a bush, you can get just another mob of monsters suddenly springing upon you. And it is really cool. Just the density is already crazy in this game. But the fact that you can go grab the little things on the side, build up your herbs, have plenty to upgrade your potions when you need to, and you're getting extra density for doing it, I think is a great add. They've done a great job of making everything in Helltides more valuable than it's ever been. Okay, so you might be asking at this point, there seems to be a ton of focus on the maiden. What to do when the maiden isn't running? You know, if you did my little trick and you portaled in and out a couple times and it's still not happening, then yeah, you got to move on. You got stuff to do. So you want to go get as many cinders as you can. We're going to go back to some of the classic stuff. We are going to target events, and we're going to target the Hellspires and the blood drain. That's the thing where it attaches to you and starts draining your blood. So pretty much those will be little markers. It'll be the diamond with the circle or the dot in the middle. Just target when those come up. Those are going to sometimes be a Hellspire or the blood circle. Other than that, just going to the known areas where you know events are running and kind of just targeting them and circling through this. It's still going to give you a ton of cinders. You're also hitting that threat meter because you're not in the maiden. The threat meter is going off more often. So I don't know exactly how much, the difference is. It doesn't feel crazy. Like maiden is pretty fast. Like it's pretty nuts. But if I don't have the maiden, I don't feel like I'm wasting time. I feel like I'm getting a lot done. I'm fighting a lot of the more of the Hellborn. I'm getting a lot more of the mine cages. It's just really adding up. And so this is going to help you do a lot more of what you want to do with the maiden. So anytime that it's just like kind of slow or you're in an off period for the game or the server, and just go run and do these. And that will allow you to just keep getting tons and tons of cinders, because that is the key. Now, while you're doing this, and this is probably where you spread out, because And the maiden, you're like sitting around the maiden circle. There's not a lot, like, you're not going really anywhere other than occasionally go get the chest. But when you're running around and you're doing the events that are coming up, you're also going to notice that the Helltide has the waypoints. And this is just a solid tip. I wish I would have started doing this earlier. But if you're in that area and you see a waypoint in a town that you haven't opened up, it's in one of the regions of the Helltides, you want to go grab that really quick, especially in the Helltide ones. I mean, you can go grab all of them if you want, but this is where it became the most important because we are running Helltides a lot, and the ability to like jump down to the second area and then go find the chest there and then return to the top one easily because you have all the waypoints is very, very nice. So just as you notice those, as you're starting to play through more and more Helltides, grab them and make sure that they're well open in by the end game, and that'll save you a ton of time and allow you just to focus on getting the cinders, leveling up like crazy, and moving through the Helltides fast. So at this point, you should be moving through Helltides very fast, collecting ton of gear, getting ton of experience. All those chests that you're opening, the reason we focus on that is because they all give a crazy amount of experience as well. So they just start adding up really, really fast. You're already killing so many monsters, it's going to make a big difference. But there is still more that we can do. One of the things that they have added to this is because the threat meter is going off for every single player, you get a major advantage and a boost by just being next to other players. So as I'm going through events and I'm just kind of doing the normal circuit rather than being at the maiden, staying close to anybody that's kind of playing around, not like stepping on them and like making it hard for them to play or cover up the thing, but just be in the region and being next to them, because if their threat meter goes off and they start unloading, you get a ton of monsters to fight, a huge density. You know, it'll allow you to even like go through that more often because it's not just when yours goes off, and you're going to be fighting the Hellborn. It's also nice to help them out, you know, so it is a much better, I think, thing to help people actually contribute to each other, even if you're not in a party together. But I thought that was so cool because if you're like in a prime time, like night or weekend, and there's a lot of people playing, this is happening like all the freaking time. In World Tier 3 and 4, you're going to want to do something that's going to save you a lot of time. You'll notice with the maiden runs that you are getting a lot of gear really fast. You're loading up your bag and you're making a lot of decisions about what to do with it. As soon as you find that you do not need rares for your build, at first I would still collect them and just break them down right away without looking at them. But eventually it is really important, I think, around World Tier 3 and 4, just to start picking up legendaries only. You're running the maiden over and over again. It's more important to stay there and just kind of get the experience. You'll blow past whatever gear you're going to find anyway if you keep a good speed. So keeping the legendaries in. They also, when you break down legendaries now, not only do you get the added thing to the codex, but you're also getting the veiled crystals that you weren't before. So you used to only get those from rares and like random drops, but now the legendaries are doing that too. So having a full bag of just legendaries to sort through, and you could go through like, you know, 7 runs of the maiden and then go back and check it. It saves you a ton of time and keeps you in the where it matters, like in the Helltides, leveling like mad. So what I'm doing at this point is actually even crazier than this, and I have gotten so many 925s. I have my gears, I think all but one item is 925. I'm actually starting not only to pick up the legendaries, but when I go to sort, the only ones I'm looking at to see if they are worth my time are going to be the ones with greater affixes, because those are ones that are worth doing the masterworking at the end. And all my gear is 925, so this really is going to be the next big jump in my gear, and to take time to upgrade and do all the tempering and all the things that I'm going to need to do. I want to make sure that it is a worthwhile item that I can take deep into endgame. Now, I do have another thing for you guys. It's not exactly around experience, but it's something I just want to make sure that you're aware of. And when you are using the Smoldering Ashes to get those perks for the season, you can actually respec them. Now, I mentioned at the bottom, but I knew a bunch of people did not know this. And I actually started using it a lot more than I ever would have. You are starting as much as you can, because leveling is going to be the key, is you're going to load up that XP. When I started, though, leveling up my glyphs, then I really wanted the bonuses to the glyphs as fast as I could, and I didn't have enough Smoldering Ashes yet. And so what I did is I actually took points away from XP just because I was going to blitz through and not focus on killing a ton of monsters in the dungeons and just go get those glyphs leveled up as fast as possible. So then I was able just to take and respec them back in XP when I went and jumped into Helltides. So I'm getting that maximum experience. Now, there was lots of little things like this that came up. And if you guys want to check some of the ones I found early, make sure you watch this video where I cover the 5 things I wish I had known before jumping into Season 4.